Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Live. Last week, Facebook was not working, so I just had to tape record it and post it. So this week, I can interact with you guys. I did leave my selfie stick, however, in the car, so I'm balancing on plates, so hopefully it stays. Hope you guys are all amazing and well and loving the warmer weather. Hi, Tyler. How are you? Excited to go see a property tonight. Tyler is going to come with me to visit a property I purchased yesterday. So excited for that. Hi, Scotty. Scotty, are you coming too? I don't know if Tyler told you, but we're going to go look at the property I bought yesterday tonight. So I'm going to do my normal, which is go over real estate updates, not just locally, but lots of different, Ontario, Canada, etc., and answer your guys' questions as well as some happy news. Hope you guys are all having a great week so far and happy Pride Month. And if you guys didn't catch the winner yesterday, we had a $2,500 winner. Her name was Tracy, and she has 8 grandkids. And I don't know why my eye keeps watering, so I apologize. Cool, Scotty. I will see you there then. Okay. So the first question comes from Jackie in Cumberland Beach. You guys, if you have never watched this before, you are allowed to ask me questions. If not, I will just go through some questions that came throughout the week. So Jackie from Cumberland Beach says, I have a waterfront property and I know waterfront is super desirable right now. Do you think I should cash out? I do love my home tremendously though. Thank you, Jackie, for asking. A lot of people, regardless if they're waterfront or not, they want to cash out on this market. But the problem with it is a lot of them say, I want to sell my house that I think is worth $500 for $850, but then I want to buy a nicer home than mine for $600. And it's like, well, if it's nicer than yours and you want to sell yours for $850 and you want to buy the same one for $600 and you don't want to move further north and you want to be like in the same subdivision, same school district, that obviously does not make any sense and cannot happen. If you are trying to stay on waterfront, Jackie, it's hard obviously just because you're going to have fierce competition on the other end as well. If you're okay going off of waterfront, then that might make a lot of sense for you. The one, for example, that I'm going with Tyler and Scotty is waterfront, and they have moved further north and they're not going to waterfront. So basically they are cashing in on the current market and then not going to be against all the people on the other end because they are going further north and not being waterfront. So that could be an option for you. So thank you for asking. So one of the little stories before I get to real estate is, did you ever have a crush in high school? So there was this couple in high school, and when they were 15, he had a job and he got $3 an hour, and he saved up and got her a little ring, and he proposed to her when they were 15, and basically the parents are like, you guys are too young, this is crazy. And, as high school went on, they went their separate ways. They both got married, had kids, and then fast forward, they're now in their early 40s, and they both separated from their husbands and wives, and she messages him. They quickly meet up and he quickly proposes to her with the same ring that he still has from back in the day that he saved, and they just actually eloped in Croatia. So I thought that was super cute because they rekindled their romance that they knew back when they were just 15. Next question comes from Joe in Barrie. So Joe says, what realistically would make sense for me to do? Finish my basement with a big open entertainment area with a wet bar, or a basement apartment for a multi-generational family. Thank you, Joe, for asking. If, for example, you were in like an estate subdivision, so it's a higher end, some people would say uppity, a neighborhood, and say there's triple car garages and bigger lots, etc., I would just do the wet bar with the rec area and maybe like an extra bedroom for a teenager or what have you. Because people at that caliber usually don't want basement apartments. We sold a home that was absolutely stunning recently. It actually closed this past Friday, and it had a basement apartment, and that was a big thing. A lot of people said, like, we don't want a basement apartment because they're at the, okay, we have money, we just want to have our friends over, we want to entertain, we don't want to be dealing with tenants. So if you're in that caliber, I would not put one. If, for example, you're close to the college, absolutely all day you could have one. And then if you're just in like an average type subdivision, it's really like here or there. You might want a basement apartment. Somebody might want it to rent out to somebody. Somebody might live down there themselves, the owner, and rent it upstairs because they can get more. Or somebody might want the space for themselves. It's really hit or miss. There's no set to it. I'll actually talk later about basement apartments and how many there are. But there are lots of garden suites too popping up in Barrie, so it's not necessarily in the basement, but you could have like in the backyard a little 400 square foot garage with a little apartment above. Those are popular as well. But again, you can't, because there's over 87,000 realtors, we never know who they're working with buyer-wise at any given time. So unfortunately, I don't have a better answer for you for that unless it's in like a really expensive subdivision like I mentioned. It is cute, isn't it, Scotty, the little 15-year-old? But thank you, Joe, for asking. Okay, so the next one is there was this man in Ireland, and basically his mom at 77 got diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And as time went on, she wasn't doing very good. And the family started to say, like, maybe now it's time we look at putting her in a home or something. And he wasn't having any of it, and he refused. So he decided to take her on travels instead. So he took her to the Himalayas, to Italy, and to South America. And South Africa, not South America, I lied. And basically in each place he found her doing better and better. And he asked one of the doctors in Nepal, and they just said it was from all of the extra stimulation that it was helping her. So she wasn't declining as much, which I thought was super cute. And maybe that's why so many people like to travel. Maybe it stimulates us and keeps us living, I don't know, more. So anyways, he took his mother to those places, for years at a time. And she passed just recently when she was 83. So I think that's an amazing way to spend your last few years instead of in a nursing home or retirement home. So special props to that man for helping out his mama. One last question before real estate is from Marilyn and Minising. So Marilyn says, I saw your giveaway yesterday and it was so sweet. I have never seen another realtor do this kind of thing. How do I nominate someone, or do they have to be your past client? My brother is a realtor, so I've always used him. No worries, Marilyn. You don't have to be a past client of ours, nor does the person that wins have to be a past client or even know us whatsoever. It's just coincidence that I happen to own a real estate brokerage. So as long as the person lives in Simcoe County. So this past, first, as of yesterday, we had people nominating people in Toronto, people nominating people in Sudbury. I think we had a Sault Ste. Marie. I forget where else we had, Oshawa or something. It has to be within Simcoe County. So as long as they live in Simcoe County, even the person that nominates them does not. They could live in Arkansas, I don't care. And they have to be over the age of 18. Those are the only criteria. And you just send it in to info@crippshomes.com. And on the 1st of next month, we will go surprise somebody else. But thank you for asking, Marilyn. So one last thing, which is super quick before real estate, is a nurse in Los Angeles. And she's doing really cute things. Basically, she's expecting her 3rd child right now. And when her and her husband first started their family, they didn't have a lot of money. And they realized like buying diapers and wipes and all that kind of jazz was expensive. So now that they're doing better, they basically go to, like Walmart's, Targets, etc., Costco, and they'll go with $1,000 each time, but divided into 20s. And they'll just put 20s and they'll like shove it, when you like hold the side of a box and there's like a little hole for your fingers, they'll shove it down in there, or they'll pull up a lid or whatever. So they're just shoving 20s in places for parents. So they're excited when they open it. It's just all anonymous of who has given it. So I thought that was very adorable. So now I'm going to jump into real estate. So we just got the average prices across Canada that came in for May. So we're second as per normal. So Toronto. BC is the highest. Obviously, Vancouver is the highest city, but BC as a whole averaged $915,000 for their sales price. Ontario was $862,000. I don't do the extras after the decimals, but $862,000. Yukon was $495,000. So obviously, it basically drops a lot, right? We have 915, 862, and then everything else is under 400. So BC and Ontario are the only higher ones. Quebec was 443, which I haven't really spent much time in Quebec, but I was a little surprised of that. Alberta is 436,000 for the average price of a home there. Northwest Territories is 413,000. Nova Scotia is now 347,000 for their average sales price of home. PEI is 330,000, Manitoba 329, New Brunswick 258,000, and Newfoundland 256. I do not know why it didn't have none of it on there. Maybe, I don't know why. I haven't been to school in a long time. Maybe they call it something different now. I don't know. Okay, so the new stress test I talked about last week in a lot of detail, but basically people have to qualify at 5.25%. And this does not mean they have to pay 5.25%. They just have to qualify at it, okay? Or 2% higher than what they're going to pay, whichever is higher. So if they, like right now the average is around 2%, but let's just say they don't qualify for that for some reason, and they have to pay 3.7. So 2 to that is obviously 5.7. So that is higher than the 5.25. So therefore they have to qualify at 5.7 to make sure that their debt to service makes sense and falls in the guidelines. So by the time they pay their mortgage, their car payments, their cell phone, maybe they have OSAP from previous school debt, maybe they have child support, etc. It all has to make sense at the higher rate, even though they don't have to pay that higher rate. Basically, they're just doing that so when and if the rates go up, people don't foreclose on their homes and go into power of sale, foreclosure, etc. So that is why they are doing it, just to make sure people can afford their homes and mortgages if it goes up, which most likely it will. Economists do not think that it'll cool the market. Some people are saying like, oh, I'm going to wait to see if it does cool the market, but economists do not think it's going to be cool the market. They do think, but they thought this before the stress test, that the remainder of the year won't be as crazy, but they don't think not as crazy as in the prices are going to go down. Just instead of like 18 to 37 offers, there might be like 2 to 5, and people will just list closer to what they want. So instead of listing at say $4.99 and getting $6.50, for example, they might list at $5.99 and get $6.50. So they don't actually think the prices will go down. Okay, so that is the stress tests and that. So basically, because the market is so crazy, what has gone to the wayside is home inspections. So they did a recent survey in Ontario, and less than 25% of people are actually getting home inspections right now. Some people are totally fine not getting home inspections, and other people that really scares them. So they're not willing to do it without that. But unfortunately, in multiple offer situations, they are getting outbid usually. So that is a bit harder for them. If you think about it, if you were a seller and you had 9 offers on your property and 7 were firm and 2 had conditions, most likely you would take one of the 7. I had clients recently that offered $15,000 higher than what it sold for, but they were conditional on inspection, and the people took the other one, whether they thought there was something wrong with their house or not, I don't know, or they thought my people might back out, I don't know. But normally unconditional offers are the most popular. So yeah, a lot of people are not doing inspections anymore. Obviously, inspectors are not the happiest about that, but also it kind of leaves people open for a liability of something's not working, something is double tapped in the breaker panel, etc. So there could be more issues. Going back to the stress test, I can't see like in the little bubble there, but anyways, I think it's Josh. If it's you, Josh, say hi. Going back to the stress test. So basically, if, for example, you were approved for $400,000 for a condo in Barrie, for example, and you had $100,000 down at 2%, which is the rate right now, and for 25 years, your monthly payment would be $1,270. But with the new 5.25 that you have to approve at, it's $1,788 a month, right? So $1,270 a month approving for that is easier than approving for $1,788 a month. And obviously, with the average sales price of a home in Barrie being a lot higher than $400,000, you can see how the math would work out there. So basically, it's just hurting first-time buyers more. People that have more equity, it's not really going to affect them that much because they'll still be able to afford it. But anyways, that is what's happened. And again, it came into place in 2017. Hi, Josh. 2017. I'm sorry about your dad. I didn't know that actually, so I'm sorry. So yeah, it came into play in 2017 when the market was crazy like this, and they did the same thing then to help cool it. Recently, we have had less offers on things. Like we had one the other day in Aurelia, only had 3 offers. It still went $100,000 over asking though. We had one out between Elmvale and Springwater. It was listed for $999 and went for $1.65. So things are still going over. And there was a home recently in Victoria Harbor, and it had 131 offers, which is insane. I had 71 offers in February on a listing of mine. So I didn't even bug the lady because I knew that she would be up to her eyeballs in offers. 4 of our clients offered on the property, but obviously that was crazy. It was, of course, waterfront and very desirable and very low in price, even though it went much higher. So where is there to live cheap? Not that I want you guys to move, but there are cheaper places to live. So the number one cheapest place right now to live is in Windsor. The number two place is London. I was born in London. And in London, their average sales price is $572,000, which is still not that cheap. That was like Barrie last year. And this was going off of large cities. So this company did large cities, medium cities, and small cities. So they didn't do like $86,000 places like 15 hours north. Windsor's average was $534,000. So they said that was the number one place, even though that was 49% higher than it was in 2020 in the same month. And basically they're looking at people's income. They're looking at people like at the unemployment rate. They're looking at the average sales price of a home and the population growth. And then they give it a price out of 100. And not a price, they give it a rating out of 100, and the closer it is to 100, the more affordable it is. So Windsor scored 98.6, London scored 97.5, Barrie was number third, 97.1, Ottawa was fourth place to live at 96.9, and Guelph was fifth at 96.2. And then for mid-sized cities, or I don't know how big it is because I've never been to Sarnia, but Sarnia won number one for mid-sized cities, and they are 358,000 to get in there. Thunder Bay came in at number two, and they averaged 299,000 to live in Thunder Bay. I've never been to Sarnia or Thunder Bay, so don't know. In the small city category, to be honest, I didn't put it down because like the average is like 101,000, and majority of the places I had never heard of, or they're really far away when I started to Google map them, so I won't say those. And not completely related to real estate, but kind of your home insurance has gone up over 64% in the past 10 years. And basically the premiums have also more than tripled. So insurance companies said the reason why this was because of changing temperatures. So suddenly it's super hot, suddenly it's super cold. So more people are making claims, which means they're paying out more, which means they want to get some of their money back. So they're going to charge us more. So they just said extreme weather and climate change. So there's been more than 42% people have made a claim since 2011 than the prior 10 years. And basically in 2001, the average home cost $741 a year to insure. And in 2021, the average home cost $1,284. I personally don't think that's that much, but whatever. The most common thing that people called in about for insurance was, the first thing was flooding, which is the only thing I've ever called insurance for. And the second thing was wildfires, which is not obviously common around here, but other areas we know of. So those are the two most common things. So for example, in Alberta, in June of 2013, there was a flood, and it cost insurance companies over $1.8 billion. And then there was like a tiny little summer storm in Toronto one year that cost them over $1.1 billion. And then back, if you remember the forest fires in Fort McMurray, 2016, that cost them $4 billion. So that is why they're saying they've upped the prices. So anyways, so back to real estate stuff. Toronto is said to have the most basement apartments per capita. So like when you divide the number of homes there and the number of people and so forth in basement apartments. So on average there, they have 1 in 6 homes have a basement apartment, which is 15.4% of the people there. So it means there's over 75,000 basement apartments in Toronto, and those are only the ones that people know about. So I can imagine if it's anything like Barrie, there are tons of other ones. Brampton came in number 2 with only 9.6, so quite a bit lower than Toronto's 15.4. And then these are not in any order, but Ottawa had 3.3% of their homes have basement apartments. Mississauga has 7.4. Hamilton has 3.1. London 3.7. Barrie has 7.8, but I guarantee it's a lot higher than that. Because again, most people don't know about them because they don't want to get in trouble for having illegal ones. Burlington had a really small amount, 1.9. Guelph and Thunder Bay were right teetering around the 9.2 and 9.5 mark. Most of them are usually like in older areas, closer to like downtown cores and so forth, as well as like public transit lines, or if there's universities or colleges there, that's pretty common as well to have basement apartments. So basically every week, I would say Cottage Country has been breaking records, which they did again this week. So they are up over 143%, the number of homes sold as opposed to last year at the exact same time, which is obviously crazy, but makes sense with COVID. And the average sales price is up over 30% as well. And basically the main demand to this is pandemic. So some people are buying cottages and they're turning them into, like, let's just say they're seasonal. They're, spray foam insulating them, insulating underneath, making sure they have heat trace lines on the water coming in from the river or the lake so the water doesn't freeze in the winter. And then they have a place to go in the winter if need be. And then other people are just buying multi-million-dollar properties on the water and either going there to work continuously or just have a spot they can go for Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc. Or if they just want to get away from the city. So still crazy things going on with waterfront recreational properties. Barrie in the last 24 hours has been busy. There has been over 20 new listings in the past 24 hours. 6 of them have already conditionally sold and 6 have already gone firm. So in 24 hours, basically 12 of those listings are gone. And 5 people got keys to their properties in the last 24 hours. In Barrie in the last week, there has been 71 new listings and 17 of those conditionally sold and 80 sold firm. So obviously 97 basically are off the market, but only 71 were listed, which means it was going into last week and the week before's inventory because there hasn't been enough new inventory to make that make sense. 165 people got their keys. Majority of people are going to get their keys June, July, August. So that makes sense. 3 people decreased their price and 2 people increased their price and 22 people canceled their listing. So basically that means they didn't get a price that they wanted. They're canceling and they're going to relist it because it's kind of like Kijiji and things go in order of when things were listed. So if you're further down on the list, people often will not see you, or if they get there, they're going to think, what's wrong with it? Why hasn't somebody else bought it? So oftentimes agents will cancel and relist it. So 22 people did that this week. In ESSA, actually, I forgot condos. In Barrie, first in condos, in the last 7 days, there has been 17 new listings, and 4 of them have already conditionally sold, and 15 went firm. So 19 basically gone, even though 17 were only new listed. So again, going into last week, 27 people got keys to their property, and 4 people canceled and most likely relisted. So ESSA, so just west of Barrie, there were not as many new listings, only 8. We had a townhome there last week listed for $499. Comparables were like $530 to $550, and it sold for $607 in the first 2 hours it was listed. So that makes sense with only 8 new listings. They don't have enough inventory. So of the 8 new listings in the last week, 1 went conditional and 11 went firm. So basically 12 off the market, but there's only 8 again. So making sense of ours. 21 people got keys. 1 person changed their price and made it go higher, and 5 people canceled. And in Innisfil, in the past week, there were 23 new listings, which is more than ESSA and fairly decent. 1 came back on the market, which means somebody offered on a conditional, maybe finance and inspection, and then they didn't get financing or they didn't like the inspection, etc. 1 went conditional and 18 went firm. 31 people got their keys, and 1 person's listing got suspended, which just means they did something wrong. They didn't send in the right paperwork, and 6 people canceled. And then in Oro, so between Barrie and Aurelia, there was 16 new listings. 3 of those went conditional and 11 went firm. So that's the only one where the amount that came up that were listed, there was actually less that sold. Still strong though, 14 out of the 16 are gone. 21 people got their keys in Oro. And then when we go out to Springwater, which is northwest of Barrie, Mayor of Barrie is turning, oh, cool. Awesome. Hi, Jeff, however, or wherever you are. I can't see the little name, but that is awesome. Thanks for popping in. Springwater, so like I was saying, northwest of Barrie. So in the past 7 days, there were 13 new listings. 4 of them went conditional and 17 went firm. So obviously more sold than we had. So again, going into last week's stock and so forth. And then 20 people got keys to their properties in Springwater in the last week. And 3 people canceled, most likely will relist. So that is that. I don't think Jeff has ever been, Mr. Lehman has ever been on live. So thank you for coming in. The next question comes from Dominic and Tracy in Innisfil. So Dominic and Tracy said, we have really old windows and aren't sure if we should replace the whole window and frame or just glass. Also, do we have to wait till the windows are in to sell? We prefer to move in the summer. Thank you, Dominic and Tracy, for asking. I would say it depends on your windows. So if, for example, it's all rotten, there's lots of times like you go around a house and like literally can stick your fingers in the wood framing and it's completely deteriorating and rotten, you definitely should replace that. Sometimes it's just, the glass, so the argon's gone, so it goes foggy. It looks foggy. It looks like you want to clean it, but you can't clean it. In that case, if the frame's still fine, it's a lot cheaper if you just do the glass. Or you could also do the things, like let's say Glass Doctor or whoever, they put this little thing that looks like a white earplug. And so they drill a little hole, they suck all the argon out of the window, they put in new argon so the fogginess is gone, and then they put this little white earplug in to plug it. So you could do that. That is even cheaper. So that is the cheapest version. Then replacing glass is second cheapest. And then the most expensive is redoing it all. So it just depends how bad your windows are. And as for asking if you need to wait till they're done before you sell, you don't have to. We did one, for example, on Pay Drive in Barrie, PAE. And basically there was a ton of things. There was like 17 or 18 things that were not done yet, just because of COVID and things being behind and so forth. So they said, here's a list of things that are going to be done before the new person takes possession at the cost to the seller. And let's just say, for example, you did that, but your windows weren't done, and your windows were supposed to be in August 1st, but they're like, hey, they're stuck on a ship somewhere in China. They're not going to be until December 1st. The people that bought your house could do a holdback, and they could say, hey, we think the windows are $28,000, and therefore we're going to hold it back to make sure that you actually are good to your word and you actually do it. So they could do that. So if it doesn't all line up and you can't get it in before their closing date, you could always do that and do a holdback. Then once the windows go in, then the lawyers release the extra funds to you. So that is something to do as well. And you're not alone. Most people do want to move in the summer. They don't want to be like September 20th and they don't know where their kid's favorite stuffed animal is, or they don't know where their favorite blanket is, or it's just chaotic. So definitely people like to move in the summer as well. So you are not alone. Nobody really likes to move with 3 feet of snow, but thank you for asking. So now we've moved back into happy news. So there is a couple flying from Colorado to California, and basically they had a little baby and like quite small, like 8 days old. And the flight attendant asked, like how old and blah, blah. And do you mind if I ask, like, why are you flying with such a young baby? And it turns out they had just got the baby for adoption. So they had just adopted her after trying for 9 years. So they were super excited. And so the lady congratulated them. And like 10 minutes later, the same flight attendant went on the PA system and said like, oh, in aisle 14 or whatever it is, blah, blah, we have new parents who just adopted their daughter, blah, blah. So they said, we're going to give napkins and pens to everybody if you guys want to give a message and advice for like raising a child and so forth. So they ended up getting over 60 little napkins with people's names and like still do date night or rub their feet or do this circle thing or what have you. I don't know everything, obviously, because I don't have kids to say all the good advice of what you're supposed to do. But they ended up making a scrapbook with it, and they're going to give it to their daughter when she's older. So the flight attendant said somebody had done that for her honeymoon, and they got all these messages from people about love and, having a healthy relationship and so forth. So she thought she would do it to them. So that was cute. So the next question comes from Jaden from Oro. So Jaden said, I came across an inheritance and wanted to start investing. Would you suggest putting more down on one or less and buying two? Thank you, Jaden, for asking. And that is exciting that you can invest, but hopefully it didn't, come from a passing of somebody, because if so, my condolences. I personally would do multiple. That's just me. You might want to just get your feet wet and do one first, but I like my equity building on multiple properties instead of just one. So sometimes people are like, oh, the one house and whatever, but let's just say homes on average, even before COVID, were going up 11 to 17% a year, for example. Then if you have one going up that amount, why not have four or whatever? So if your debt to service ratio makes sense to get more, I would get more. And, then your tenant can pay down your rent, not your rent, your principal. Your tenant can pay down your principal, or you can Airbnb it and make even more. So you can pay down your principal. The house goes up in value. Plus you have that investment. So it's a triple win. But yeah, you're paying down your principal and you make money every month. I'm like, there's three, but I said one kind of double. But you make some every month. Your principal gets paid down, plus the house goes up in value. So I definitely would get multiple if you can. Thank you, Jaden, for asking. So what is next? Another Guinness Book of World Records was broke by a little girl who was 11. And she failed math, actually, in grade 2. And she couldn't hold a pencil, so they failed her. And fast forward to 4 years, she's 11 and now she's beating like mathematicians and adults in math competitions. And she just beat all of them in a Guinness Book of World Records. So she has autism, and she was diagnosed with autism when she was 2. So that's why she can't hold a pencil, because her motor skills are not the greatest, as well as her social skills. But if you give her any 6 or 7 figure number times it by any other 6 or 7 figure number, she like does it all in her head, no calculator, no pen and paper. So basically they gave her all these random numbers, and in 10 minutes they timed her to see how many she could calculate and say the answer to. And she beat the person like by a crazy amount. So anyways, that was cool of that little girl that's only 11 beating records. Smart little lady. The next question comes from Corey and Alliston. So Corey said, I know some people are older than me, so I'd expect them to be further along in their investment goals than myself. But I find myself very judgy and critical and wondering if they screwed somebody over to be so far ahead of me. I know this is bad, but I feel like if they are younger, they should own less real estate than myself. How can I stop being so critical? Thank you, Corey, for asking. I would say, regardless of whether you're judging people on their investment or their looks or their family or how great you think they're doing or anything like that, comparing yourself to anybody is not good. There's always going to be people doing better than you. There's always going to be people doing worse than you. So I would not look at it whatsoever. You never know people's circumstances. You never know how truly happy they are. And even if they look like they're a model in size 1, maybe they're not the most healthy on the inside or mentally or what have you. So don't necessarily judge like that. But yeah, I would definitely just try not to, because you're on your own path, right? You have your own things going for you, and I would just do the best that you can. If you fall, get up again, and that's the only thing that matters, right? It doesn't matter if you fall 84 times as long as you get up 85. But thank you for asking, and I hope and wish you well for all of your investment goals. Oh yeah. So this was actually another plane thing. So some people take things not for granted, but they've done it so many times. So for example, riding first class. Somebody might have, been in first class tons of times on a plane. I haven't been on a plane since last February. But there was this fellow, and he befriended this lady who was 88 in the terminal. And when they got on the plane, like, they went their separate ways, but she went to economy and he went to first class, and he just kind of assumed that she would be in first class, her age, and she just had knee surgery, etc. So when he saw that she was not in first class, he switched with her, and basically she acted as if he had given her like $10 million, and she was so excited and taking pictures with the staff and pictures with him and pictures everywhere, and it was just adorable. So you never know what people think is amazing to them. So if you can spread whatever you can, it makes me want to just go buy a whole bunch of first class tickets just to give them away to people, because I personally don't care about sitting in economy. But if it's going to make somebody's day so happy and, I don't know, exciting, then I think it's cool to do that. But anyways, that is all from me. Stay safe, be kind to one another, go after your dreams, and don't let excuses get in your way. Have a great night.